Hi, this is my video presentation of my unit on the foundations of our political system and the rise of capitalism. It's a 2-week unit. In my learning map, I explained that it was 2-week unit. This is week 1, day 2. So yesterday we unpacked the chapter and went over vocabulary, words and explanations, and they also had the opportunity to Google Classroom any questions to me that I can answer back if they still didn't understand some words or some reading. And so kids are coming in right now. So welcome, happy Tuesday. We're gonna watch a short video, so get in your seats real quickly while I take roll and we can watch the video. So just 1 minute, let me put it on. All right, so have a seat, everybody, and let's focus on the video.
It is the spring of 1787. The Revolutionary War has been over for only 6 years, and the young United States is still struggling in its infancy. Uprisings, boundary disputes, and the lack of a common vision all plague the newborn country. In an effort to steady this precarious ship, the Confederation Congress calls on states to send delegates to the Grand Convention to begin on May 14th in Philadelphia. The delegates must draft revisions to the Articles of Confederation, which would then be considered by the Congress and approved by the states. Under the terms of the Articles, all 13 states had to agree to any changes. Since the purpose of the convention is just to make recommendations, not everyone is excited about attending. And frankly, some think it's a waste of time. As men from different parts of the country began to travel down dusty, rutted roads on the way to Philadelphia, not all states send delegates. In fact, Rhode Island never even shows up. On May 14th, only 8 delegates, not states, but individual delegates, are present. So they wait. Finally, on May 25th, the necessary quorum of 7 states is achieved. In all, 55 delegates arrive in Philadelphia over the course of the convention. They are all white males, property owners, and the average age is about 44. Some are slaveholders, some had signed the Declaration of Independence, and almost all are well educated. Picture the delegates, James Madison and George Washington among them, sitting in Independence Hall in hot, humid Philadelphia. They're all wearing the dress of the day, frock coats, high collars, and thick pants. They vote to keep their discussions secret to encourage honest debate. But that means the windows are closed, and there is no air conditioning in 1787, not even an electric fan. And they'll sit in that sweltering heat in those heavy clothes for 3 months. Shockingly, they all keep their vow of secrecy. That could never happen today, not even for an hour-long meeting. Someone would share, James Madison thinks he's so smart, keyword, articles are dead, via social media, and the whole thing would be a disaster. But in 1787, there are no leaks, not even a drip that hints at what they are doing. And what they are doing is nothing short of overthrowing the very government that sent them there. Within a few days, with only a 7-state quorum, and only 6 of those states agreeing, a handful of men changed the course of history. They vote to get rid of the Articles of Confederation and write a new, more nationalistic document that becomes our Constitution. The risk is immense. Everyone on the outside assumes they were working on recommended revisions to the Articles. It's an incredible gamble, and even when the convention presents the signed Constitution on September 17th, not all delegates endorse it. The country will argue and debate for 2 more years before the document is adopted by the required 9 out of 13 states. But instead of punishing them for their deception, today we celebrate the wisdom and vision of those men in Philadelphia.
Okay, so why do we need to know this? Why is this important? Why is this important history? Can anybody answer that? Yes, it's our past. It's where we came from. It's why we have our political system. Because they felt, why? What did they feel about the Articles of Confederation? Why did they throw them out? Think about it. It wasn't working. It was what? Yes, it was if they came over to a new country and they wanted to avoid the monarchy and the rule, and then it was turning into the same thing. So they said, no, no, this isn't working. We need to develop something else. And didn't you think it was kind of interesting how they talked about they were in this room and it was secret, and it was, they wanted to keep it secret. They didn't want to upset the nation, saying, oh, we're going to throw out this whole thing, we're going to develop something new. That, like she said, could that happen today? Just think about, we are constantly connected to what? News, whether it be true or false. And it's hard to tell these days. So that's another reason why we need to know our history. Some things are good and some things are bad. So maybe knowing this is how they handled the situation maybe was a good thing. Until they had something concrete to explain to the country, they didn't let anything come out because people can interpret that differently. So they developed a new political system, and we're going to break that down within the next weeks. Can anybody tell me how many parts of our political system are they? If you talk about what is your political system in the United States? 3. Yes, there's 3. So we're going to talk about those. We're going to break apart the Constitution, and you're going to be able to write about how our political system works at the end of these 2 weeks, and the foundations that it was built on, which you just learned a little bit about, and then the changes in our country because of the rise in capitalism. Now, I want you to think about those people that were in those rooms, and they described them. Do you think that they represent the people that live in the United States today? So what did she say about them? What did she say? What was the average person? Male. Yes. What else? 45. What else? White. Does that represent our nation? Maybe back then it did, but I don't even think so back then. Think about it. What else did they talk about? There's other people living in the United States back then. Think about it. There was Indians. There was slaves because she said there were slave owners. So the people that were developing our Constitution didn't really represent totally the people that lived in there now, and they wouldn't represent our country how it is now. Of course not. But it's interesting to me to keep thinking about how they developed this. It's like they could think about the future a little bit, because they didn't want our government to be able to have one part of it control everything. They wanted it to be separate powers. And that's what we'll get into with our 3 branches. So remember, 3 branches. So what are the 3 branches? Someone tell me. Legislative, executive, judicial. Okay, so I want you to think about these words before we get into, we're going to watch another video about the branches of government, but I want you to think about these words. Aspirations. What does aspirations mean? What does that mean? When you aspire, what do you do? Yes, aspire to do something or be something. So they had aspirations that they wanted this nation to be better than where they came from, number 1. So they were really thinking about it, not just thinking about right then and there, but thinking about as much as they could imagine the future. So they had aspirations of having a wonderful nation. And I truly believe that we still are. We live in a wonderful, that's why it's so important to know the history and know where we came from, because things do go awry, and people wonder, like, well, why does America think that we are so good? Well, we have a wonderful base, and then to explore it and to learn about it, you even realize how much more wonderful it is. Okay, then the next thing I want you to think about is ideals. What does that mean? What do ideals mean? Ideals. Ideals is part of what word? Idea. So when they were developing the Constitution, they spoke about ideals, let's see, principles to be aimed at. So things to be aimed at. So they spent a lot of weeks there talking about a lot of things in, not very nice conditions, hot, sweaty, humid. There was no air, there was no electricity. There was no electricity. So there's no fans, no air conditioning, that type of thing. So we're gonna watch one more video, and first of all, before I want you to think about, while you're watching this video, I want you to think about any conflicts that might arise. I want to also go over the projects that we're gonna do. Okay, so the projects, there's going to be 10 of them to choose from. Okay, I'd like you to do it with your group of 3. I think we have some people in two or 3 groups, but I would like you to do this together. So while we're discussing and while we're reading and while we're watching videos this week, you need to pick one by Friday of the first week. So then you have next week. It's not a big, huge project, but there's 10 things, okay? And the first one is, I'm going to go over the 10, and the reason why I'm going over them is because I want you to be thinking, ooh, that would be, I could do that with that information. So I want you, before we start really getting into our information. So number 1 is a small short skit, maximum 10 minutes, that you do with your group. You can act out parts of it, act out how they developed things, how their ideas worked, explaining life during this time period. What was life like? A 5-word vocabulary skit, so kind of like charades. So you're going to explain 5 vocabulary words in a charade game. So maybe you guys play charades. Each person, I want you to take turns in your group, and then the people that are sitting out here can watch. Maybe they'll get it. Recite a prominent speech of the time period, 10 minutes, so give each person in your group a part. Debate the pros and cons of a pertinent topic, so basically like a debate, 15 minutes maximum on that. Make a diorama. So diorama, I don't know if you remember doing those in 6th grade. You can do that. We'll give you all the supplies here. You don't need to do anything at home. You don't need to involve your parents. I'll do it right here. We're going to make a diorama, you and your group. Write a daily news article. So you're going to pretend perhaps you're the editor of a newspaper, and you're going to give your journalist an assignment. Go interview this person or write an article about them, 250 words or less. Explain and display some cultural and art of the 19th century. So what did people do for fun? What did they do for entertainment? So explain that. You give each person in your group a project. So the news article, that's written news article, or you can interview a person of the time period. That's an easy one too. Just find a person. You're the journalist that's interviewing them, and then explain what it's like to be a kid during that time period. That's always a fun one. And then if you must do something by yourself, you just can't work with the group that you're in, come and talk to me. And I do have an option for that too. If you must do it individually, I'd like you to work with somebody else. It's always fun to get information ideas from someone else, but if you must, then you can do a 1-page essay on a topic of your choice. But I want you to talk to me before that, okay? So we're gonna watch a short, quick video. Then when the video is over, make sure you check your Google Classroom. I've already assigned your groups of 3 people. I will assign, because I want to make sure everybody's kind of moves around, doesn't stay in their same little group, meet new people. It's always nice. So let me get the video ready. Just 1 minute.
Have you ever wondered who has the authority to make laws or punish people who break them? When we think of power in the United States, we usually think of the president, but he does not act alone. In fact, he is only one piece of the power puzzle, and for very good reason. When the American Revolution ended in 1783, the United States government was in a state of change. The Founding Fathers knew that they did not want to establish another country that was ruled by a king.
So the discussions were centered on having a strong and fair national government that protected individual freedoms and did not abuse its power. When the new Constitution was adopted in 1787, the structure of the infant government of the United States called for 3 separate branches, each with their own powers, and a system of checks and balances. This would ensure that no one branch would ever become too powerful, because the other branches would always be able to check the power of the other 2. These branches worked together to run the country and set guidelines for us all to live by. The legislative branch is described in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Many people feel that the Founding Fathers put this branch in the document first because they thought it was the most important. The legislative branch is comprised of 100 U.S. senators and 435 members in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is better known as the U.S. Congress. Making laws is a primary function of the legislative branch, but it is also responsible for approving federal judges and justices, passing the national budget, and declaring war. Each state gets 2 senators and some number of representatives depending on how many people live in that state. The executive branch is described in Article 2 of the Constitution. The leaders of this branch of government are the President and Vice President, who are responsible for enforcing the laws that Congress sets forth. The President works closely with a group of advisors known as the Cabinet. These appointed helpers assist the President in making important decisions within their area of expertise, such as defense, the Treasury, and Homeland Security. The executive branch also appoints government officials, commands the armed forces, and meets with leaders of other nations. All that combined is a lot of work for a lot of people. In fact, the executive branch employs over 4 million people to get everything done. The third branch of the U.S. government is the judicial branch and is detailed in Article 3. This branch is comprised of all the courts in the land, from the federal district courts to the U.S. Supreme Court. These courts interpret our nation's laws and punish those who break them. The highest court, the Supreme Court, settles disputes among states, hears appeals from state and federal courts, and determines if federal laws are constitutional. There are 9 justices on the Supreme Court, and unlike any other job in our government, Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, or for as long as they want to stay. Our democracy depends on an informed citizenry, so it is our duty to know how it works and what authority each branch of government has over its citizens. Besides voting, chances are that sometime in your life you will be called upon to participate in your government, whether it is to serve on a jury, testify in court, or petition your congressperson to pass or defeat an idea for a law. By knowing the branches, who runs them, and how they work together, you can be involved, informed, and intelligent.
Okay, so now for the rest of the time period, class, we're going to break up in our groups. Remember, you do need to submit the choice of your project, group project, by this Friday. We're going to start working on it on Thursday if you already have it picked out. If you haven't picked it out, you need to choose it by Friday and submit it to me, and then we will continue to work on the projects next week. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's it for my presentation for my teaching on my learning map, week 3. Thank you.